Welcome back to Good Day State Line. Tim Mahoney is with us tonight. We have a hot topic to talk about.
Yes, we do.
One of probably the hottest, most legal topics we've really discussed.
Yes, so the overturning of Roe versus Wade.
Yes.
So today we're going to talk about short-term ramifications, and then the next time we're going to talk about long-term ramifications to the United States as a result of this decision. So Roe versus Wade was completely overturned. That's very significant because a right was taken away. That's never happened.
Right.
Typically, once a right is established, then that right is there forever, and then we can kind of carve around it over time. And they could have done that in this case, which is what Justice Roberts' concurring opinion basically says is, we didn't need to do this. We could have decided this issue without going as far as we did. But either way, that's now what happened. So that law is overturned. So short-term ramifications. Well, 13 states have what are called trigger laws, which means they had laws on the books regarding abortion. And now as a result of Roe versus Wade being overturned, those laws suddenly are elevated and they're live. Some of them have been around for a considerable period of time, well over 100 years.
And so now let me stop you just to ask a question. So that is because this got turned over to the entire country's law. So the minute the country law went away, it went just right back to what the state had.
Right. So the Supreme Court is called the Supreme Court because they're final.
Yeah.
They're not final because they're infallible. They're infallible because they're final.
Sure.
So when they decide something, then the United States Supreme Court, then that's it for the rest of the country. So like the Illinois also has a Supreme Court. When the Illinois Supreme Court decides something, then that's it for the entire state of Illinois. Doesn't impact other states, though.
Sure.
So the United States Supreme Court said you had this constitutional right. So any law that contradicted that was invalid.
Got it.
As soon as that constitutional right was removed, suddenly that law becomes valid.
Okay.
The puck turned to on if you've ever been to a Brazilian steakhouse. So now, all of a sudden, everybody's got to deal with that. So like Wisconsin had a law that was on the books from over 100 years ago that suddenly is valid. So you had 13 states that's the case. Those laws are valid.
Sure.
You've likely got around 26 states that are going to pass some sort of law restricting or banning abortion in some fashion. And then you're going to have the rest of the states that don't, or they do it in a much lesser fashion. So like, let's take Illinois. It's pretty likely that all of the states that ring us are going to do something to ban that particular medical procedure. So what's going to happen? Well, people are then going to come to this state in order to get that medical procedure. So, in a way, this could be called the guaranteed employment for attorneys decision, because now everybody has to figure out, how do we deal with all of this?
Yeah.
So if a resident of Texas travels to California to have this medical procedure done and then goes back to Texas, can Texas subpoena that information and then prosecute that person for murder, which is where some of these states are definitely headed in terms of what they're going to do. How does HIPAA play into all of this? Can the other states stop that information from being taken? So that's one of the many things that are going to have to be dealt with. What about if a physician in San Diego has performed a bunch of these medical procedures? One of them was for a resident of the state of Texas, or arguably a resident of the state of Texas. They hop on a plane to go to St. Bart's. Weather lands the plane in Dallas.
Yeah.
Can Texas authorities then come on the plane, take that person off the plane, and prosecute them for murder for a resident of their state? All stuff that's going to have to be dealt with over the next couple of years. The other thing is the court clearly has an agenda. And Justice Alito has really had this agenda for a long time, and now he's got the chips in place in order to do it. So it's not just this that's going to fall. Same-sex marriage, right to contract, all that stuff's gone. That's all going to happen over the next period of time, I think is pretty clearly where things are going to go. Justice Alito has always hated Miranda. He's always hated, the Miranda warnings. You have the right to remain silent. So I think it's likely that the court's going to go after that right also and go after Miranda, which is kind of ironic because nobody ever follows it. Nobody ever follows Miranda. The police can barely get the warnings out before the people want to start talking. So it's like, why would you go after this when it doesn't really hinder anything? But there's going to be a series of things that also happen as a result of this that are going to impact a lot of state issues. So like if the same-sex marriage falls, which I'm sure that it will, so then some states will ban that and some states will not. So then if you go get married in one state, does the full faith and credit clause make it so that the other state has to follow that contractual arrangement? Chances are yes, but again, this is all going to have to get sorted out. So there's going to be a lot to deal with over the next couple of years as to how all this is going to work.
Definitely pointing out a fact that I think a lot of people realize, but maybe not everyone, that they might not think that what happened recently affected them, but it's all affecting everyone.
Look, yeah, and it's always like, well, that's not a big deal until it affects me. And, you know, we see that a lot in our offices.
Sure.
We see a lot where it's like, well, I supported this position until all of a sudden it's my kid that is impacted from this position, or it's my grandkid that is impacted from this position. And suddenly it's like, well, wait a minute, I don't think that this is right. Well, who did you vote for? And how, you know, you supported this line of thinking, and now this line of thinking is impacting you and you feel differently.
Well, we're going to talk about this again. There's so much to unpack. Mahoney'sGotYourBack.com. You can scan that flow code and get in touch with him too. If you have any questions, people can ask you questions. I guarantee you he will tell you the answers. We'll be right back for our next stop as we search for the State Line's best burger. We are headed to McChesney Park.